This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we look at Spa in the past, present, and future, and we give our insights on the best moments that Spa has had to offer. Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James, but Don is not with us today. Today we have my dad, Jim Strong. Jim, how you doing?
Glad to be here.
Thanks for stepping in for Don while he is away. So, how long have you been watching Formula One?
Formula One. Boy, the first time I saw a Formula One race would have been 1981. I think Monaco.
Okay.
Saw it on TV, and was blown away at just how cool Monaco looked. But as a race fan, I've been a race fan all my life, pretty much. As early as 5 or 6, I could remember. Just wanted to be a pro driver at that point.
Well, you of course grew up in Southern California, right? And you used to go out to Riverside every so often.
Went to Riverside, mostly Irwindale drag racing, because that was 10 minutes away from where we lived. So a lot of drag racing, but got to go to Ontario when Ontario was out there, watched Indy cars, and saw some drag racing there too. Riverside, little bit all around. Started really getting into Formula One about 84, I would say, when I kind of started really paying attention to Formula One.
Yeah, it's a shame you never got to go see Formula One at Long Beach.
It is a shame.
So was there a particular driver, maybe a particular team, or were you just blown away by the dynamic of Formula One at that point?
Yeah, kind of by the dynamic. The drivers all had kind of exotic names, right? It wasn't like here, but I latched on to Williams kind of early on. I owned a Honda, and so Williams had Honda Power, and KK Rosberg was kind of my guy at that point, and then Nigel Mansell. But I liked watching all the people who were racing at that time. PK, Senna, of course, was starting to come up the ranks. And I remember when like Schumacher came along. There were certain drivers that kind of blew you away, kind of right out of the water.
Right.
Like the first time you saw Senna, you were like, "Wow, this guy's really going to be something." And the first time you saw Schumacher, it was like, this guy is just going to be something. The other guy that I saw like that was Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Phenomenal debut, right?
Of course.
And people thought they were crazy for signing him, and wanted to be a 7-time world champion.
Yeah, it was definitely. I think McLaren definitely messed up letting him go.
Yeah, I would agree.
Toto Wolff must have done a lot of sweet talking.
Must have.
Well, cool, man. So we are in a bye week this week, but we are looking forward to Spa. And so we were thinking maybe what we would do is we would look back at 2024 Spa and then maybe some memorable moments. I got to be quite honest, 2024 Spa was a little bit of a snore fest, if I'm being quite frank about it.
You think so?
It really all came down to strategy, right? There wasn't any grandiose accidents or anything like that. I think the overtakes were kind of minor. Oscar Piastri put a pretty good move on Charles Leclerc at one point, but it wasn't really super exciting as a race.
I don't know. I thought the fact that you had a Mercedes 1-2 at the end was pretty awesome. Hamilton just going at it, hammer and tongs there almost with Russell. And sadly, we know what happened at the end.
Right. Well, maybe we'll start at the beginning because going into the race, Max Verstappen had a 10-place grid penalty, so he started all the way down in 11th, qualifying second, and then moving down. For a power unit, or using an extra power unit, I guess, Tsunoda also had to start from the back of the grid for replacing a power unit, and Zhou had a 3-place grid penalty for impeding during qualifying. So a little bit of a shakeup. And then, of course, at the start, Lando Norris, starting from fourth, immediately dropped back, just touched the gravel at La
Yeah, went
Source.
back 3 places.
Yeah, went down 3 places, really hindered him.
And Max went up 3 places on the first lap.
Yeah, Max had a pretty good run at the beginning, and then
Unsurprising. I think
super
Checo
unsurprising.
started second.
Checo and Hera did second. That's right.
Right. Okay. And had kind of a miserable start, which allowed Hamilton to get around him.
Yeah. Perez isn't really known for his race starts, sadly. It
2024 was a rough year for Checo.
Right, but anytime he was starting up at the top, he tended to just have a bad start. Like he would qualify well in a handful of races, and then the starts would just catch him out. He was just not about them. And I mean, he ultimately finished seventh. He dropped back quite a ways during the race. So a bit of a bummer for Perez and Perez fans all around.
Yeah.
But you were right. Yeah, some we do know. But Russell did finish first, but ultimately had a disqualification. His car was underweight. A bit of a real bummer for George Russell.
Because he drove a great race.
He did drive a great race, right? He started all the way down I say all the way down, but he started sixth. So his strategy obviously played out very well during the race, but he missed it by just 1.5 kilograms, which is about 3.3 pounds. Not terribly underweight, but just enough. Well, the track is so big, right? This is the only track where they don't do a parade lap at the end. The drivers don't have the opportunity to go around, do the parade lap, and pick up rubber on the tires, which is an old Formula One trick that's been used for quite some time. I think Eddie Jordan might have started that one. going around and picking up the rubber on the track, adding a little extra weight to the car. It does sound like an Eddie Jordan thing, doesn't it? So yeah, just missed out barely, which is a real bummer for Russell, because at the end, overall for the 2024 season, he finished all the way down in sixth. So would that win brought him up? I don't think so. He finished 245 to the Sainz's 290. Ultimately, it wouldn't have hurt him, but it really wouldn't have helped Mercedes' position. Russell still would have finished where he finished in the overall standings, and Mercedes would have finished in the same spot in fourth at the end of the year. So, it wouldn't really made a difference. It would have just added to his stats. Having an extra win on your stat board is better than having one less, right?
Of course.
So with that in mind, I think we should talk about our favorite moments of Spa, of which there are many, many memorable moments of Spa to choose from. And maybe you would like to go first?
Well, I picked 99, and it wasn't a thing from the race, but it was, I believe, qualifying. Jacques Villeneuve and his teammate, Ricardo Zonta, decide they're going to take Eau Rouge flat. And
which nobody was doing or had done.
Right. But they were certain they could do it, and Villeneuve promptly went through their flat and put it right into the wall. It was a pretty spectacular crash.
Yeah.
Took a while to clean that up, and then once they got going again, Zonta went out and thought, I'm going to do it flat. That was the challenge. And had an even more spectacular crash right behind that. So they busted up both of the BARs, sadly.
That's a pretty stinking good one. I don't know when the first driver to go through flat would be, but it definitely wasn't those two guys, despite them trying it.
Right. And they had that kind of you remember that kind of crazy livery they had where on one side it was Lucky Strike and then on the other side they had the blue and yellow of the 555.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
remember those? The cars
oh yeah,
split down the middle. It was kind of a crazy livery.
yeah. Not a crowd favorite, if I remember correctly.
No, I thought the
Seemed
Lucky Strike alone kind of looked better, but
same here. I did enjoy the Lucky Strike when it was just the whole car. Yeah, that's not a bad one. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot down to 2000. A little backstory of that is Hakkinen and Schumacher for the past few years had been battling it out left and right. And coming into 2000, Hakkinen and Schumi were still battling out Ferrari versus McLaren. And going down, I think it's the Kemmel Straight, the long run down after Eau Rouge, they come up to traffic and Michael moves left to go around the traffic, and there's just a car's width on the right hand side, and Hakkinen takes the right and is able to finally get past Schumacher. He had been trying for a handful of laps prior to this and just could not make it stick. Of course, Schumacher being a great defender, but that one lap car splitting the traffic was the defining moment, and what a great moment it was.
yeah. And that one lap car, Ricardo Zonta in the BAR.
It's all just kind of come full circle.
And yeah, and they went by him almost like he was standing still weirdly. And I think Michael expected Mika to cut to the left behind him.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure Michael thought like, oh, I've got this in the bag. And instead Mika went right. I think it was one of those hair raising moments for Zonta when both those guys came blowing past him. And Mika made it stick. And a guy I think that doesn't get enough credit, Mika Hakkinen, what a brilliant driver. You know, I think it's because he was racing in the Schumacher era made it made it tough, right? Because Schumacher's the only name that comes out of that time. But Mika was incredibly talented.
Mika was incredibly talented. Two-time world champion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard enough to do it once, but to do it twice
To do
is
it twice.
a tough one. I should also note he had Adrian Newey as the chief engineer while he was there at McLaren.
It's the
So
secret.
that's the secret to winning. What about you? What about another one for you? What else you got?
That was my other one. Was 2000. That was
Oh, the Kemmel Straight.
yeah, because that was just such a spectacular pass.
All right, I'll say another one then. I've got 2008. 2008 Belgian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Räikkönen battling it out in wet conditions. Of course, Spa has always been tricky in the wet, particularly because it can rain on one part of the track and be completely dry on the other part of the track.
Exactly.
So if you put on inters, you're fine for one half, but you're going to be super slow in the other half, and you got to balance that trade off at Spa, which is really difficult. Sort of how we saw at the British Grand Prix this year, where you had really wet conditions and intermediate conditions, and then at one point you had intermediate and dry conditions, and you just got to walk that fine line. So Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Räikkönen out on track. They're getting caught out by the rain. They're slipping and sliding everywhere. Räikkönen gets by Hamilton. There's a Williams in the way who had just gone off, and they both kind of go off. Running up towards the front straight, Kimi Räikkönen goes wide, hits a puddle, lights up the tires, and bends it right into the wall. Ultimately ultimately giving Lewis Hamilton the win in the wet conditions. What a heartbreak, especially right, especially because in 2008 it was really McLaren versus Ferrari that year, right? Lewis Hamilton ultimately won the championship by only 1 point over Felipe Massa. I think we'll all remember it came down to Brazil. and
Yeah.
he just lost out barely. Massa was on the road to win, and lost it out. So it was a very tight running that year. And then I think we'll go to my oldest memory of probably racing altogether would be the 98 Belgian Grand Prix, because the 98 Belgian Grand Prix was, I think, in my opinion, the most chaotic race there has ever been in F1.
That was the race nobody wanted to win.
Well, they started out right, um, with 24 cars to start. They get around La Source and they're in the rain. And David Coulthard uh, lights up the tires and bends it into the wall, ultimately taking 13 cars out.
Oh,
Before,
yeah.
yeah. Do you remember this one?
That
I
was,
remember you and
yes,
I sitting down and watching it as a kid, and I could not
and just
believe what had
unbelievable,
happened.
right? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I had seen crashes. There was a big one in Canada that year prior to Belgium. So I had seen a few handful of big crashes, but this was the biggest crash by far I had ever seen.
Scary.
Yeah, super scary. So 24 cars start. Coulthard takes out uh, more than half the field. Only 18 cars are able to restart the race, which in that time they had the spare cars, which is something I wish they
Right.
could bring back, to have the spare car. And so they restart, and Hakkinen spins it at the first corner in La Source and is hit by Johnny Herbert and takes himself out of the race.
Yeah. That was a wild start to a race. Just crazy.
Two wild starts to the race, really.
Yeah, the start and the restart.
And you had drivers that were complaining that they should have started under the safety car, right? Which I think in retrospect they should have.
Probably would have been the better call. Yeah, absolutely. Hindsight's always 2020.
Hindsight is always 2020. So that gets underway. Hakkinen's out, and there's other two great moments from this race, which is that on lap 24, Michael Schumacher is coming up to lap David Coulthard. Jean Todt of Ferrari had walked down to McLaren to kind of harass him to let Michael by, have David let Michael by, and Michael Schumacher hits David Coulthard in the back, removing Michael Schumacher's right tire and David Coulthard's rear wing.
Right. And how that happened is just it was kind of unbelievable when you saw it. Like, what? Because he had room.
Tons of room.
Right?
Tons and tons
still
of room.
Ended up plowing into the back of him.
Yeah, and they showed, I rewatched the whole race, and there's one camera angle where they're looking behind to see, if they could see anything from behind, and all you see is just this wall of mist. You can't see anything. So it's not really hard to believe that Schumacher would hit him, except I don't know what Schumacher was doing running exactly right behind a back marker like that. He should have.
Well, they have
and in the rain.
Right, they have a rain light on the back.
Yeah, but you can't see
So you
the
should
rain
have been.
light.
Oh, of course you can.
No, you
It
can't.
would cut through. It's the whole point of it.
Not as well as you would think.
No.
Obviously, right? Michael ran right into the back of him.
Well, in this instance, I guess.
Well, even at the British Grand Prix this year, when Hadjar ran into the back of Antonelli,
Yeah,
you didn't see the light until it was too late, when Hadjar had already hit him at that point.
Schumacher wasn't a rookie.
Yeah. And then, so Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard retire. And there comes a point where there's only 6 cars left on track,
right?
For the race.
A lot of attrition.
Yeah, a lot of cars dropping out. Eddie Irvine driving for Ferrari that year. He put a foot out onto the gravel and into the barrier and ended his day. taking out the whole Ferrari clan. Um, Other cars just didn't make it. Um, but since there were only 6 cars on the track, which I don't think you could get away with now, I think the rules and regulations are so different. David Coulthard had his rear wing put back on and rejoined the race. Same thing with Shinji Nakano. He had taken damage earlier, and he rejoined the race after having his car put back together.
You can make it back to the pit.
Well, they both made it to the pits, but they both got out of their cars because they had expected to retire.
See, that's not a thing in IndyCar. You could get out of the car, they could fix the car, you could jump back in. But I always
think
thought
you could do that in Formula One.
Once you got out of the car, that was it.
I'm pretty sure that's how it is now.
Okay, seemed like it was then too, but
well, they both got out of the car and they both jumped back in because at that time only the top 6 drivers would get points. So because so many people had fallen out, yeah, they were hoping that 2 more cars would drop out, or in David's case, 1 more car would drop out, and he could get at least a point towards the championship, which ultimately they didn't. David finished 7th, and Shinji Nakano finished 8th. Not getting any points, but they ran the race. And amazingly, when you look at the official roster of where they finished, they were only 5 laps back, which is crazy.
For having a crash and having to replace a wing and whatnot.
Right, exactly. Well,
that's a big track. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I forget who it was. I think it was Fisichella that ran into the back of Shinji Nakano and caused a collision. So Fisichella, he took off both his front tires and was just a passenger. And Nakano took damage to the right back of his car, I believe. But they were already at the pits when it happened, because it's where the old bus stop chicane used to be, running up to the start finish, which is no longer there, of course. But yeah, able to finish, which is crazy. But the other crazy moment from that race is it is the first of only 4 wins for Jordan F1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Damon Hill won his last Grand Prix with Jordan, which was Jordan's first. And Ralf Schumacher, also driving for Jordan, finished 2nd.
A bit of a favorite because they were always sort of the underdogs, but in some cases they looked like they were having more fun than anybody else at the same time. I mean, Eddie Jordan was a crazy personality, right? Gave Michael Schumacher his first ride.
Yeah, in 91 is when Schumacher had his debut for Jordan. Made headlines by qualifying 7th, which at that point was the best that the team had ever done.
Right. And then raced hard against Ayrton Senna, who was already a world champion at that point.
Right.
And that was the race when I said, that guy's going to be something, right? That guy's, if he's going that hard against the McLaren and a Jordan, you can tell he's ultra talented.
Yeah, so I got it right here. So 98 Belgian Grand Prix, Damon Hill. Jordan's first ever win with the 1-2 finish. 99, the French Grand Prix with Heinz-Harald Frentzen won the race, making it his first victory with Jordan. Or for Jordan, yeah. And then 99, again, Italian Grand Prix. Heinz-Harald Frentzen clinched his 2nd win of the season at Monza. And then the last one was 2003 at the Brazilian Grand Prix with Giancarlo Fisichella.
Interesting little bit of history there.
Yeah, a little bit of history. I think what people also may not know is because team orders were given to the Jordan drivers, right? In the closing laps, Ralf Schumacher was coming up to catch his teammate and going much faster than Damon Hill. And it looked like Damon Hill was going to lose out. And Damon Hill came on the radio and he says something to like the effect like, I'm going to put it to you guys, like we can finish 1-2 as is, or we can race and we may crash and not get any points. So team orders were ultimately given to keep the positions as they were. A little bit of cheekiness on Damon Hill's part, I think.
Smart, I think.
With the well, he did get the first Jordan win in his last win. But because of the team orders, Michael Schumacher later found out and bought out Ralf Schumacher's contract from Eddie Jordan, which is why Ralf Schumacher was then a free agent to go to Williams the following year in '99.
Not a bad move for Ralf.
Not a bad move for Ralf. He had a minor success, I would say, driving for Williams, and just kind of overall in his career, I guess you could say. But yeah, just a tiny little bit of history right there for everybody. '98 was such a pivotal moment in Formula One history because so much happened during that race. I still wish they would bring back the
98 Villeneuve bended at Eau Rouge at the exact same spot.
Yeah.
So he did it in '98, right? Came back again. Yeah, came back and did it again in '99.
Yeah. Of course, '98 for the championship. Mika Hakkinen went on to win his first World Drivers' Championship before doing it again in '99. So beat out Schumacher in the Ferrari. And then, which is why it was such a big deal when he got past him again in 2000, because in 2000 Schumacher ultimately won his championship there, and Hakkinen finished second. It was a close race. You know, all those guys were up running. Ferrari and McLaren were the guys to beat. Williams were kind of in the background. They finished third a handful of times. 2000 is when Williams also had the BMW, which is a really good period, I think, for Williams.
Didn't hurt him any.
Yeah, it didn't hurt him any. 2000 was a good year. They finished third. In '99, they had finished all the way down in fifth. Jordan had actually finished third in '99, which is a little interesting.
Yeah.
I think Schumacher has the most wins at Spa with 6. I think he's got 6 wins at Spa.
Winning once there is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, well, Senna and Hamilton, well, with last year, you know, Lewis Hamilton inheriting it, him and Senna both have 5 apiece, which is pretty stinking good. Not bad. But when you count it all out, Ferrari's got 18. 18 wins there, which is bananas.
They've been doing it longer than everybody else, though. So
they have been doing it longer than everybody else. Now that we've gone back and kind of done a little bit of history, what do you think is going to happen at the upcoming race?
Well, it's hard to imagine anything other than McLaren being right up at the front. I mean, they're on a bit of a tear right now.
So we have only done half of the Grand Prix this year. We've done 12. We've got another 12 to go. And of the 12 that we've done, only McLaren have won every race except for 3.
Yeah.
Japan was Max Verstappen. Imola was Verstappen. And then Canada was Russell.
So, yeah, it's hard to not to... it would be hard to think about anything other than those guys right at the sharp end of the grid. You know, I think you're going to see kind of the same players up there. Mercedes, you're going to see Red Bull, you're going to see Ferrari, those kind of top 4 teams. Hamilton had a good drive in at Silverstone. I think if we get some rain, it might be a chance for him to really shine. He's really good in the rain. I think Max is pretty darn good in the rain. I think I think a few of those guys might be able to shake things up. They say Lando's is pretty good in the rain too, but I don't know that he holds up against those two as well. Anybody who comes out of Great Britain is going to be good in the rain because that's all they do is race in the rain.
Right. I would agree. Yeah, it seems like Lando and Oscar have kind of gone back and forth. Lando won the opening at Australia, and then it jumped to Oscar, and then it was Oscar for a while. He had 3 in a row, and then it was Lando, Oscar, and then it's been Lando the past 2 races. So do you predict Lando's going to be first, or you think Piastri's going to be first?
I think, well, like I said, if rain changes everything.
Rain does change everything.
If it's fairly damp, I think it'll be Lando. If it's not, then I think you're probably looking at a little bit of a toss-up. I'd probably maybe lean a little more towards Lando of the two.
Okay, I could see that. I could see that. I don't know. Oscar did significantly better than Lando last year, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that's who I think is gonna come out on top. Yeah, I'll put Oscar as coming out on top over Lando. I think Oscar will take it. They're really close, right, in points, because Piastri's only got 234 and Norris has got 226 points. So it's gonna come. I think it's gonna come down to the very end of the season between those two.
I guess the next question is: will any rookies finish the race this week?
Yeah, they seem to have a bit of a hard time at Great Britain, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Hopefully, they've all settled down a little bit, and things will go a little bit better for all of them.
Yeah, because I think everybody except Oliver Behrman.
Yeah, I think Behrman was the only finisher
of the rookies.
Yeah.
Well, if it rains, who knows? Anything can happen in the rain, right?
Anything can happen in the rain. It's the great equalizer.
Well, me and Don usually do what we call bold predictions, so I don't know that would be really a bold prediction, but I'm going to go ahead and put that Lance Stroll is going to have a top 10 finish coming in. Stroll's been doing this whole season. Stroll's done better than Fernando Alonso, and he's got a 4-point lead on his teammate at the moment, but he's only a handful of points behind Ocon and Hadjar in the standings. And I think if he has a really good performance in the top 10, it'll push him up the standings just a little bit. I think he's the underdog that people are always kind of discounting, but I think he'll have a really good race, and I'll put him in the top 10.
Okay. Well, if you remember at Silverstone, Alonso was complaining on the radio, why is it my strategy that always gets messed up?
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
You seem to get it right for Lance, but you can't seem to get it right for me this year. I don't know what that is. Anyway,
Fernando Alonso also didn't finish the first 3 races, so
yeah. I bold predictions. Okay, so
2 races. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think Sauber has caught some energy. I think that podium finish is going to translate into really good things for them. Maybe we'll see both those guys in the points at Spa. They've been slowly moving up. They've had improvements to the car. It's made a huge difference. We've seen better performance out of those guys. not a prediction, but a hope. Williams has really hit like a mid-season lull. Really hoping they turn something around.
Well, they have a minor upgrade coming into the weekend, so I'm hoping both.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping to hear, is that new upgrade's going to help those guys out.
I'm hoping so too, especially Carlos Sainz. He's had such a rocky start to the first half of the season. He's had he's had 2 DNFs and 1 DNS at Austria for his car not working, unfortunately. He's had a good mix of being inside the top 10 and outside the top 10. It's almost about a 50-50 split, but when you compare it to his teammate, it's just not as good.
Right. But Albon's got more experience in the car. You kind of expect that. I just would have expected him to be a little closer.
Yeah.
Than what they have been.
I would expect that too. In all fairness, Albon does also have 3 DNFs. So, but he's finished 5th 3 times this year, which is his best finish of the season. So, racking up some good points, and I hope he can get back to being up there.
Same.
Well, sounds good, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thanks for asking.
And replacing of Don.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a good time talking to you and seeing you. Do you want to go ahead and plug your podcast really quick?
Yeah, I'm actually being pillaged from the Frank and Jim's Rock Talk.
Okay.
Well, we pit classic albums against each other from an artist, and classic rock songs against each other, and give people a chance to vote on which one they think is better.
Nice.
So you can find us on Facebook at Frank and Jim's Rock Talk.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much. And as we say here, adios.
Adios, amigo.